Today, we got proof the Fed is not going to be able to save the stock market. We come over, look at the fear and greed index. We're sitting at 71. Now, will this go back towards neutral, or are we on our way all the way back to extreme greed? We come over and look at the most recent investor sentiment survey. Another bullish reading coming in at 49. Now, the question is, are the bulls a little bit too complacent at this moment? Now, this morning, we had some economic news that came out. We had this CPI data followed by the weekly unemployment claims. I want you guys to pay very close attention. On the weekly unemployment claims, they came in extremely hot. 258,000 new people filing for unemployment benefits versus a forecast of 231, previously sitting at 225. Then we look at the CPI. We look at CPI month over month. It does not look like it's coming down. It's exactly where it was previously. And they were forecasted to drop to 0.1. And then we had the month again, not showing a decline like they were forecasting. Then as we come over, we actually look at the CPI report, and let's look at what was the driving factor for the CPI being as good as it was. Well, if you look right over here at energy, we can see energy was essentially taken away from the CPI report. And if we come over and we look at a chart of crude oil real quick, it's really no surprise. Crude oil was on a tear down. Now, has things changed? Is that dynamic starting to shift? And now the Fed is about to be screwed, because we look at crude oil, it completed an ABC pattern on the way up. We got our pullback right down to the structure level that we were looking at. Now we could be forming another ABC pattern on the way up. Keep in mind, Israel still has not retaliated for what Iran already did to it in the past. And if that does occur, we're going to see crude oil spiking up higher. Now, this next ABC pattern would give us a completion point of 83.12. Now, in order for this pattern to be validated, we must break above the swing high right over here at 78.47. Now, we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board. The Dow was down 57 points. The NASDAQ was down 9.5. S&P 500 down 11.9, with the Russell 2000 being down 1.25. However, look at advancing issues versus declining. We had 59.7% of issues declining on the day. Then when we come over and look at the sectors, look what was leading the way. Energy leading the way. And again, if that was favoring the CPI report, what is going to happen at the next CPI report as we see crude oil going higher with all the tensions going on in the Middle East? Now, with all that being said, what is the market pricing in terms of interest rate cuts at the next meeting? We can see there's an 80% chance the Fed is going to cut rates by a quarter basis points. But hold up. Wait, there's a 19.7% chance maybe the Fed pauses and essentially does nothing. What do you guys think the Fed is going to do at the next FOMC meeting? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, today we saw Amazon stock dropping 4% on the day. Now, we look at this article right here. AMD AI event features new chips, but it doesn't help the stock. And we come back over and we look at that chart. Keep in mind, AMD was down 4% on the day. Then we come over and we take a look at Intel. Intel was down roughly 1%. Intel's still working on thinking about, should we come back and fill that gap or not? And we look at AMD, is this nothing more than a simple pullback? And now we're going to resume our way back up? Or is this the early stages of a little head and shoulders pattern? Left shoulder, head, and the right shoulder is still to be determined. We come over and look at the dollar index today. Dollar index closing with a doji candle. Is this going to be part of a reversal pattern? And we see the dollar starting to weaken from this point on. If the dollar is indeed going to start weakening, then we would expect gold to start coming back up. And if we look at the price action we saw in gold today, gold basically forming a bullish engulfing candle. And we're going to see, do we bounce from this level? Gold has pulled back to the 61.8. If we take out that structure right up there, that would validate the ABC pattern all the way up here to 2782. However, if we start breaking below the low of today, that would invalidate that pattern. I have to rethink it. We look at the MACD indicator. The MACD indicator on the daily chart looks bearish at this moment, meaning we have a bearish cross of the two lines. As we come over and look at NVIDIA is back on the move once again, a bullish engulfing candle. So, it was basically playing possum right around this ABC structure. Keep in mind, NVIDIA still has this ABC projection at 141.27, and that would be enough to get NVIDIA making another new all-time high. We come over and look at the volatility index today. What do we see? The VIX was up a whopping 7 cents on the session. So really not a lot of information to be gleaned off the volatility index. However, one thing to note, we are still staying above 20 and we're almost at 21. So the fear has not totally exited the market like the fear and greed index may have you to believe. Now we come over and look at the Dow Jones today. What do we see? Dow Jones is still flirting with trying to make another new all-time high. Keep in mind, Fridays tend to be more bullish than bearish for the stock market, and we're going to see if tomorrow is a little bit of the same. Now, if you guys want to ensure you get the best deal on Apex or with My Funded Futures, make sure to use promo code Mike at checkout. We come over and look at small caps. Small caps forming a hammer candle where right at the 50% Fibonacci level. Now, if we can start to bounce up and out of this area, that would set up a larger ABC pattern to the upside. Also note, we have a double bottom pattern. So if today's low holds, then it would make sense that the bulls have the advantage. And we're going to go ahead and at minimum, come back and try to retest this upper swing point of about 224. We breach above that, then we're going to be looking for an ABC pattern to the upside. Now, when we come over and look at the economic calendar for tomorrow, we have the core PPI coming out at 8:30 a.m. Then at 10 a.m., we have preliminary consumer sentiment with preliminary inflation expectations. So tomorrow, my MO is going to be early in, early out. If you guys want to join me on the live stream, make sure you're subscribed and you have the bell notifications turned on for all. Now we come back over and we look at the QQQs today. You can see we had a little bit of a wick on the top, a little bit of a wick on the bottom, but as we're looking at this candle, there's a larger wick to the upside than there is to the downside. On the 4-hour chart, we have a fresh cross of the MACD lines. On the 1-hour chart, just crossing, trying to get maybe a little bit of a pullback on the way down. However, I want to caution you guys on that. We've had a push up and now we have nothing more than an upper level consolidation. Out here on the 30-minute chart, the MACD indicator has been crossed to the downside. We look at the profile, it's a D as in dog, which what that signifies for tomorrow, we're likely going to get a breakout or breakdown from this pattern. Now, if Israel goes on the offensive, watch out. We're probably going to go ahead and break down. If not, I would kind of anticipate we're likely going to go ahead and try to proceed with some further upside testing. We come over real quick and we look at the futures markets real quick. On the 4-hour chart, what do we see? Well, we're very close to the weekly highs at this moment. Now, if we do start to see a pullback and we're looking at this profile, let's talk about where that area might come into. And I'd really be looking right here at this price point where this minus development area is. That price is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 20,340. Now, if we can stay above value area low, then I'm going to give the edge to the bulls, and hopefully guys are able to spot this pattern out as well. We have that A to B equals C to D pattern. That would bring us above this recent high and give us a price projection of about 20,578. Now, as we're looking at today's volume profile levels, we have value area high at 20,457.50. We have the point of control at 20,412.50 and value area low at 20,376.50. Now, if we're going to start to pull back maybe in Asia tonight, I will want to focus on this minus development area. I'm actually going to map out the zone. 1, we can use it as a target. 2, we can also use it as a potential entry point to go ahead and push us up and out of this area. Now, that zone comes in anywhere from 20,396 down to about 20,385. Now, as we come over and look at the SPY real quick, what do we see? Well, basically I have a doji candle. We went up, we went down, and basically closed relatively close to where we opened up at. Out here on the 4-hour chart, not a lot to see. We have MACD indicator cross to the upside, and we're basically just, waiting to see, are we going to make another new all-time high? Out here on the 1-hour chart, you can see this upper level consolidation. Now we do have gaps that still need to come back and get filled at some point. We have the gap all the way down here, but for the time being, as we're looking at this, here's the level we drew out last night. Notice where the SPY came down to this morning. Boom, tested it, bounced up. Now here's the problem. If we extend this out, we came into a second, a third. If we come into it again, more likely than not, we're going to start to break to the downside. Now, is that going to be because we get either bad economic news tomorrow, or is it going to be more tensions going on in the Middle East? We come over and we look at the futures markets real quick for the S&P 500. Notice we're basically at this upper level consolidation at this moment. And if we map out this A to B equals C to D pattern right here, we haven't quite completed that pattern yet at 58.61. Now, when we look at the daily profiles, we formed a D as in dog shape profile today, and notice the minus development area that we mapped out in last night's video. That's exactly where we came down to today. Now, we've already hit it once, twice, 3, 4, 5. If we come down there again, we're likely going to go ahead and flush lower. And we look left, what do we see? We have other minus development areas lower, which we discussed in yesterday's video, which we're likely going to go ahead and come back and test. Now, the top of the lower minus development area is going to be about 57.73. However, I don't want to get hung up on that just yet. I want to see, do we break below this minus development area or not? If we do, then I want to be open to the idea of going lower. Now, notice the high today was lower than the high from the prior day. The low from today was higher than the low from the prior day. And we have a D as in dog shape profile, which signifies we're likely going to get a breakout or breakdown from this pattern, but we also going to be very vigilant on a potential trap for tomorrow. Now, value area high is going to come in at 5832.00 with the point of control at 5829.50 and value area low coming in at 5820.00. Now, if you'd like to learn how to place stop loss orders in NinjaTrader and the difference between a stop market order and a stop limit order, watch this video right here.